women who had excess body fat over the period of 13 years had a threefold increase in the risk of developing breast cancer.
The drinkers basically drank their breakfast, lunch, afternoon. At the end of 8 weeks, drinkers lost 2 pounds, and they also shrank their waist circumference by almost an inch.
Excess visceral fat, inflammatory fat, is so dangerous and linked to cancer. And by the way, not just breast cancer. It turns out that excess visceral fat has been linked to increased risk of 14 other cancers. Everything from
one of the first places you gain when you start gaining weight, 90% of people think it's around the belly, and understandably, because that's what you would see. I'm gaining weight, you look in the mirror, I'm seeing around your belly. But actually, that's not so. Turns out that the first place you start building body fat is in your
Have you ever looked in the mirror, maybe tried on some old jeans, or even just stepped on the scale and felt like you really got what was going on with your body fat? What if I told you that what you think you know? Well, it might only be scratching the surface, and that some of the biggest dangers, and honestly, some really surprising solutions, are completely hidden from view. Well, today, that's exactly what we're diving into, the hidden world of body fat, specifically something called visceral fat. So our mission today, what we really want to do is pull out the most crucial, maybe even eye-opening insights from the sources you've shared, especially Dr. William Li's discussions. This isn't just about weight, it's about understanding a silent, pretty serious health risk and finding actionable, sometimes really counterintuitive strategies to deal with it. Let's unpack this.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? How we often focus on what we can see, the obvious things, but the really profound health implications, they often lie in what's unseen. So today we're going to really dig into the why. Why does this stuff matter? We'll move beyond just the simple ideas to grasp the complex connections happening inside your body.
Okay, so let's start by tackling a big misconception. When we think fat, we usually picture something visible, right? Like love handles, maybe a bit of a belly, that kind of thing.
Exactly.
But here's the twist. A lot of the most dangerous fat is actually, it's this unseen danger lurking deep inside. Dr. Li uses this great analogy. Think of a FedEx container packed solid with peanuts.
Right.
The box itself might look thin from the outside, but inside, it could be absolutely bursting with pressure. That pressure, that's like visceral fat.
That FedEx analogy, it really clicks, doesn't it? So it's not just the size of the box, but what's crammed inside under pressure. And this type of fat, visceral fat, it's dangerous inflammatory fat located right inside your body cavity. Very different from subcutaneous fat.
That's the stuff you can pinch.
Yeah, exactly. The stuff just under the skin, love handles, muffin talk, that sort of thing. And here's a really critical point for everyone, really. You don't have to look overweight to have too much visceral fat. Even people who seem quite lean, skinny even, can be carrying high levels of this dangerous internal fat. People sometimes call it skinny fat.
Okay, so if it's hidden, what are the actual dangers? Is it just about, how clothes fit, or are there deeper health issues we should be worried about?
Oh, absolutely deeper issues. This fat is a major, major driver of chronic inflammation. Remember that analogy? Like pouring gasoline on the embers of a fire throughout your body? That's what inflammation does.
Wow.
But it gets worse. Excess visceral fat has now been linked to an increased risk of 14 other cancers.
14.
Including colon, ovarian, lung, breast, prostate. The list keeps growing. There was this 13-year study focusing on women with excess body fat, and this included women who were technically normal size. And they showed a threefold increase in breast cancer risk. 3 times. And it was directly linked to inflammatory markers found in their bloodstream. It's a really powerful link. And frankly, it's unsettling.
Yeah.
Really shows why we need to pay attention to this.
That's incredibly sobering. Okay, but if you think that's surprising, wait till you hear where some of this hidden fat can actually start to build up first. Where does the research point?
Yeah, this is fascinating. When people start gaining body fat, especially this visceral type, the very first place it often begins to accumulate isn't the belly.
No, I would have guessed belly.
Almost everyone does.
Yeah.
90% of people. No, it's often in your tongue.
Your tongue. You're kidding.
I'm kidding. Your tongue has different parts, right?
Yeah.
Tip, muscular middle, and then the back third. That back third is normally marbled with a bit of fat, kind of like a steak. But as you gain visceral fat, that marbling increases, specifically in the back of your tongue. Researchers at Cornell studied this in Swedish women, even thin women. When they gained this internal fat in their tongues, they started snoring. Their partners noticed. Because when your tongue gets fatty and you relax during sleep, it can literally fall back and block your airway. That leads to sleep apnea.
Okay, that connection makes sense now. Wow.
It really shows why the number on the scale, which lumps together bones, muscle, water, everything, isn't the full story, not at all.
Okay.
Instead, your waist circumference, that's actually a much better surrogate measurement for how much hidden, harmful visceral fat you might have inside.
Okay, so we've definitely established the threat, this sort of silent visceral fat problem. But this deep dive isn't just about the bad news. It's about solutions. And the good news is our bodies actually have this, like, secret weapon against the bad fat. It's called brown fat.
Brown fat, yeah, the good fat.
Exactly. And this stuff is amazing because it's packed with mitochondria. You know those tiny little powerhouses, the fuel cells in our cells? They burn energy like crazy. And guess what fuel they go for first? White fat, and that dangerous visceral fat we've been talking about.
Right.
Brown fat literally burns down the bad fat. And just a quick fun fact, why is it brown? Because those mitochondria are full of iron, which basically rusts a tiny bit, giving it that brown color.
And what's really exciting is that we can actually intentionally activate this inner furnace. We can turn it on. Cold temperature is one way. It gives the body a bit of a shock, releases hormones.
Like adrenaline.
Exactly, epinephrine and norepinephrine. They signal directly to your brown fat cells. They hit a specific receptor, like flipping a switch, which then activates a key protein inside the mitochondria. Think of it like the clicker on your gas stove, igniting the flame. That's what it does to your brown fat.
And the really good news here is that turning on this inner furnace doesn't have to be extreme. It can be surprisingly accessible. You don't need like cryotherapy chambers or anything. Simple cold baths can work, or even just sleeping in a cooler room can start to activate that brown fat.
Yeah, and it's interesting, scientifically speaking, some research looked into certain bladder medicines, like mirabegron. Turns out they unexpectedly activate brown fat too. Through that same receptor pathway, it's on your bladder and your brown fat. When they targeted it, the brown fat just lit up beautifully on scans. But this is purely for understanding the mechanism. I have to strongly caution anyone against even thinking about using those meds for fat loss.
Right.
The doses used in those studies were dangerously high, way beyond what's safe for bladder issues. So
Yeah.
definitely not a practical strategy, just highlights the science.
Okay, understood. So cold exposure is one tool. But here's where I think this deep dive gets really interesting and maybe flips what we think we know. We always hear, eat less, move more for fat loss, standard advice. But what if you could actually eat certain things to help burn off that harmful visceral fat?
Exactly. This changes the game.
It feels like a total paradigm shift.
It really is. The new science shows that certain powerful natural compounds in foods, we call them bioactives, can actually activate your healthy fat. They help it reshape itself, become more beneficial, and literally get rid of visceral fat. It's like using Mother Nature's toolkit.
Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Where do we start? What foods?
Well, teas are a fantastic place to start. Let's take green tea. There was an 8-week study where people drinking green tea lost, on average, 2 pounds and almost an inch off their waist. And that loss was specifically linked to visceral fat reduction.
An inch off the waist just from tea.
Yeah. Plus, they got other benefits: lower blood pressure, better fasting glucose levels, improved blood lipids. Pretty massive.
Definitely.
Then there was another study at Tehran University. They looked at 63 overweight patients with type 2 diabetes between 35 and 65 years old. They drank 4 cups of green tea a day for 2 months. The result: about a 3-pound weight loss and nearly 2 inches off their waist circumference.
Wow, 2 inches. That's like going down 2 belt notches.
Exactly. Significant.
So green tea is powerful. What about other teas?
Oh yeah, green tea is just the start. Matcha tea, for example, is kind of exceptional because you're consuming the entire ground leaf, so you get all the polyphenols, the EGCG, and the dietary fiber. It's a powerhouse.
Right.
Then you have oolong tea. It's slightly oxidized. You often get in Chinese restaurants. Still contains that beneficial EGCG. And if you want something even darker, there's pu'er tea. It's a smoky, fermented black tea from southwest China. Not only does it seem to help shrink waistlines, but it's also probiotic because of the fermentation, which adds another layer of metabolic benefit.
Interesting, probiotic tea. Okay, so teas are one avenue. What else? You mentioned seafood earlier.
Yes, seafood, specifically the marine omega-3 fatty acids, especially from oily fish. There was a study in Iceland looking at salmon. People ate it 3 times a week for 8 weeks. Now, they did also start with some calorie restriction. That's important context. But they lost up to 15 pounds.
15 pounds, that's substantial.
Very. And salmon is packed with omega-3s. A typical 5-ounce serving has about 1,565 milligrams.
Okay, so oily fish like salmon works. But here's what really jumped out at me from that research. They also looked at cod, right?
They did, and this
Yeah.
is where it gets really intriguing.
Because cod, well, it's not really seen as an oily fish. It has way less omega-3, only about 284 milligrams in a similar
But
serving.
much lower, yes.
Yet the people eating cod 3 times a week for 8 weeks, they still lost 10 pounds.
10 pounds. It was an incredible finding. It really demonstrates that you don't necessarily need those super high doses of omega-3s from very oily fish to see benefits in terms of fat burning.
That makes it much more achievable for people, doesn't it? Not everyone loves super oily fish.
Exactly. It broadens the options considerably. That 284 milligrams of omega-3s, the amount in cod that showed results, you can get that from quite accessible foods, like just 4 medium Gulf shrimp, or about 8 oysters.
Wow.
Or even just 1 decent forkful of mackerel. Or think about half a piece of halibut, about the size of a deck of cards. So you see, it makes incorporating these beneficial fatty acids into your diet much, much easier than people might think.
Okay, that's really practical advice. So we've covered what to eat teas, certain seafoods, but now let's shift gears to when you eat, because timing is also critical for fat burning, isn't it?
Absolutely critical. Your body's metabolism is, well, it's hardwired for this. When you eat, your insulin levels go up. Your body's focus is on dealing with that incoming fuel, storing it, using it immediately.
Yeah.
Fuel loading, basically.
Right.
But when you're not eating and your insulin levels are low, your metabolism literally switches tracks, like changing train tracks, as Dr. Lai boots it, and says, okay, no new fuel coming in, time to tap into the reserves, time to burn some stored fat.
So how do we encourage that switch? How do we make it happen more often?
It's actually surprisingly simple to get started. A super easy strategy is just to create a 12-hour fat-burning window every day. Stop eating 3 hours before you go to bed. So for example, finish dinner by 8 p.m. if you go to bed around 11 p.m.
Okay, 3 hours before bed.
Then, in the morning, just delay breakfast by 1 hour after you wake up. So, get up, maybe have some water, shower, get dressed, perhaps check your email. Then eat breakfast. Just push it back an hour.
That doesn't sound too hard.
Not at all. And that simple change means your body spends 12 hours half the day in that fat-burning mode. It's burning down the extra fuel.
And I guess if you wanted to take it a step further, skipping breakfast entirely would extend that window even more, right?
Precisely. If you skip breakfast, you easily push that into a 16-hour fat-burning window. Now you're basically doing intermittent fasting without even really trying too hard.
16 hours of fat burning sounds pretty good.
It could be very effective.
Yeah.
And for people who want to be, let's say, a bit more hardcore, you can maybe just have a small snack around lunchtime, skip any afternoon snacks entirely, and really compress your eating window into an even smaller period, maybe just 6 or 8 hours.
So compressing the time you do eat.
Yes. The whole goal with any of these timing strategies is to trigger your body's natural metabolic switch, to encourage it to actively burn down that extra body fat. And remember, the scale and the mirror, they don't tell the whole story, because your weight includes bone, muscle, water.
Right, it's not just fat.
Exactly. What you really want to get a handle on, what you want to manage, is that dangerous visceral fat. The fat you can't see. That's the real target here.
That's such an important point. The real win is controlling that hidden inflammatory fat. And it shifts the focus, doesn't it? Losing weight, or rather managing fat, isn't about just stopping eating or feeling deprived.
Not at all.
It's more about being strategic, choosing the right kinds of foods like those teas and seafood, and then also being smart about when you eat to let your body do its natural fat burning thing.
You've got it. So just to recap, we've looked at the hidden dangers of visceral fat, where it surprisingly accumulates like the tongue, and importantly, the empowering, sometimes counterintuitive ways you can fight back. Through activating brown fat with cold, through eating specific foods that burn fat, and through strategic meal timing.
Yeah, this deep dive really offers some practical, even delicious ways to make genuine progress beyond just counting calories. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening, given everything we've just discussed about your body's amazing inherent ability to burn its own fat when you give it the right signals, how might this knowledge change your daily routines? Not just about food, maybe, but thinking about those other signals like temperature or timing. What ripple effects could activating that inner furnace have?
That's a great question to ponder. It encourages that ongoing curiosity, doesn't it? Exploring these fascinating connections within our own bodies and how simple changes might lead to profound effects. Keep exploring.